Look, listen. You all know me, and know me very well you do. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I honestly think you know what I'm gonna say next. Why don't you try guess? Aunt May could get it, baby. Hey. On God, I blow her back. Put your head on my shoulder. Hold me in your arms. Serotonin, one of the many things that rush through my body when I hear the word Spiderman. That shivering feeling you get down your spine when you see the masked crime fighter swing from web to web is undeniably one of the greatest feelings a person can feel. It's like a snake is slithering down your back making you have an orgasm. Is that too much? Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever seen a movie that fundamentally breaks your whole understanding of entertainment? Something that leaves you in awe at the triumphant characters or stunning visuals that they present you. It leaves you pondering the endless possibilities that the story could take just to make the journey worthwhile. It's like seeing Jesus or like having like a really good sandwich. Something that subverts you into a tiny world where nothing else matters besides these characters. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I present you Into the Spiderverse. I know, I'm gonna be at risk for sounding a little bit pretentious and cocky when I say this, but this is legitimately the best animated film ever made. Let me explain. Into the Spiderverse is a Spider-Man story without the core details that make Spider-Man, Spider-Man. But that's not a bad thing. It takes away the cliche storytelling phrase of, with great power comes great responsibility, and actually emphasizes and displays that with a whole new, well not new, but new for a cinematic debut, character. Enter Miles Morales, a New York-raised half-black, half-Hispanic teenager who struggles with, like many other iterations of Spider-Man do, the concept of identity and purpose. But unlike other Spider-Men, Miles' situation is different. When he gets bitten by the radioactive spider that turns him into the hero we all know and love, like the story foretold he does, instead of coping with the unknowing of what he is and is going to be, he already has his identity and purpose laid out for him, that being Spider-Man. But before even being bitten, his identity was also already set in motion, with one of my favorite characters in the story, Uncle Aaron, or the aptly named the Prowler. Then when he met Peter Parker, his whole destiny was changed in an instant. From him being the future Prowler to being the next spectacular Spider-Man. See, Miles' whole world is built around the concept that Spider-Man already exists and swoops in from web to web, constantly getting back up from each fight, over and over and over. But what happens when that reality breaks? After the Spider-Man from his reality dies, Miles is struck by the realization that the only hope for his world and the entirety of time is him. Finding what makes you, and the passion to be something is what drives him to succeed and prosper in the big scary world of giant goblins, tentacle-armed ladies, scorpions, and corrupt businessmen. And when he finally becomes his own Spider-Man by taking the leap of faith off the building and swinging from web to web like he was destined to do, it's not Peter Parker, but Miles Morales, the next Spider-Man. Having huge shoes to fill and not knowing how to do it is the side plot and main objective of the film. And honestly, you couldn't ask for anything more from a Spider-Man film. Also, I'm just saying, Gwen Stacy swings some webs at me. She do be kind of fine though. Enter Peter B. Parker, the sloppy, middle-aged, and disingenuous Spider-Man coming from a different dimension because Kingpin, just go watch the movie. Peter B. Parker is a version of Spider-Man that, let's just say, doesn't fit the slim-fit spandex-wearing hero we know. Actually, he's far from it. Not saying that's a bad thing, and honestly, it's kinda hot, but this Spider-Man is borderline broken. From Mary Jane divorcing him to Aunt May dying, it's no wonder he has these trust issues and psychological problems. But they all seem to stem from just one issue. He doesn't want to have kids. And honestly, to have the disappointment of seeing them see their father fail or essentially die would fundamentally crush the will of any man. And that basically rips a hole in his psyche. Until he meets Miles, the clumsy kid who reignites the passion and adventure it means to be Spider-Man, and fills his mundane life of punching the bad guy to being a role model, whether he wants to be or not. Guiding the young pupil through trials and tribulations of his own life fundamentally changes his whole understanding of caregiving and relationships, which then in return mends that broken mind he's been ever so comfortably festering, giving him the courage to face his own fears of commitment and being a father. God damn, I'm starting to sound fucking pretentious. The role of a mentor is much more than just your life and the sentiments you give. It's the steady path you leave for someone you can count on to pass on your or someone else's will. And I think that's truly beautiful. And now, for the baddie with a fatty, enter...
What you said?
Gwen Stacy is the one and only Spider-Woman. But not really, there are others in canon, but nevertheless her story is the most tragic and absolutely heartbreaking. When Gwen's friend Peter, and yes it's that Peter, dies after a scientific experiment gone wrong, turning him into the Lizard, her alter ego is blamed and hunted as the criminal her father ever so wants to kill. Or at least that's what the wiki says, which is fucked up. The trauma caused by Peter's death essentially emotionally stunts Gwen and rips apart her care for others and relationships, breaking that childlike wonder of the inner workings of human relationships. She's guarding herself off from everyone and putting up a facade that she's fine, and that she's fundamentally pushing down the emotions and psychological damage she's suffering from by hiding her identity from potential friends and potential allies. But in reality, she's broken. Until she meets Miles. From a rocky start to a great friendship, it starts off with an awkward encounter but flourishes into something beautiful. He's the person who restores her faith in humanity and mends the broken soul that was shattered from trauma and guilt. The optimism and kind-hearted spirit of the need-to-be hero just being himself, whether it be in school, saving her in battles, or just connection on a spiritual level on a bus, really just frees her from the bondage and casket her heart was once in. The time spent on the bus, and essentially just every time they're together, makes Gwen feel more safe and secure. And it tells her that she's not alone in the world. Well, not her world, but in some worlds. And I think that's comforting enough to at least repair some aspects of who you once were. I know it's a story about superheroes fighting, but could there be anything more than trauma and heartbreak to express the humanity in a character and give the story a little bit more of realism? Or she's the Grinch, you know, same story.
Grew 3 sizes that day.
You see, a story is much more than its basic plot and premise. It boils down to the feelings the characters have and the goals they need to get past the point of self-betterment. And the movie Spider-Verse shows that tenfold. With its flashy characters, extravagant personality, and charm of its designs, I think that's what makes it perfect. But that's not all it has to offer. You see, the point of Spider-Man's design is to feel like just some everyday teenager like you could be this badass fucking pussy-slaying machine. It's what drove so much of us to the character in the first place. Fuck, I mean, I used to fantasize about burning buildings and me saving everyone in them, but that's just me being a psychopath, I think. This movie shows that the fundamentals of being Spider-Man doesn't just boil down to the color of your skin or your background, but I'm not really the one to explain this, so here's my friend, Kiwingly.
Into the Spiderverse was one of the most amazing showings ever. When it first came out, I drugged my mom to the local Alamo Drafthouse, which is the best movie theater to ever exist, and we saw the movie. It was a pretty good experience. I'd rate it like a 10 out of 10. I especially love the part when this big brolic fat white dude shot a black guy a la police brutality. Psych, that scene was utterly fucking heart-wrenching to see corporate white people shutting down another black man for the 5 trillionth time. Genuinely though, it's a good movie, and it's a good representation for race in my opinion. You know, Black Spider-Man, can he save a brother now? Nah, but this Miles Morales is, like, amazing. Like, imagine Spider-Man, but then boom, he has electric powers too, and then boom, he can go invisible. Like, what more can you ask from the exaggerated swagger of a black teenager running through the streets of Brooklyn wanting to be Spider-Man, but always kind of lacking the guts? Then when that nigga was like, vroom, off the glass of the building and flipped through the air, I was like, bro, this dude just turned on the swag on. Like, akin to the greatest visionary of the past 1,000 years, Soulja Boy. Damn, that was a good movie.
But honestly, my personal favorite part about this whole ordeal is the art. Never in my life have I seen something so magical and charismatic. The wanderlust of everything from the comic panels to the jumping from car to car is what truly cements this as the greatest superhero movie of all time. It brings a feeling of passion and love from the animators and sets a precedent in mind that this is the standard that every 3D animated feature should hold up to. The only thing even comparable to this movie is Ratatouille. And that's saying a lot. I fucking love Ratatouille. To think something so silly as Spider-Man could break down the meaning of identity and passion so amazingly that not even someone who specializes in psychology could do or even comprehend. The exemplified colors, the storytelling, the minute details that just make everything pop is what truly cements Spider-Verse as a testament of time. Sorry if this was a little bit too deep for your puny little minds, but it needed to be said, so I'm not really sorry. And shout out to my editor, Noodlegirl. It took a long time for this to come out, but she's a lifesaver when she's doing it. She's amazing. Go drop her a follow. And maybe subscribe. I don't know. Also, thank you to Kiwingly for guesting on this video. I really needed the help with that part of the video because I'm not black. So, anyways, go sub to him on YouTube. But anyways, as always, I'm Smeef, and I'll see you later. Peter V. Parker.